The stock and bond markets in the world are watching China Evergrande Group a bit too closely nowadays. Evergrande is a world-famous Chinese real estate developer, but the reason why it has been under the radar lately isn't that. Instead, the financial crunch and liquidity crisis the company is facing is causing unrest among both local and global players. If this crisis remains unresolved, it may become Asia's largest debt default by any firm. Evergrande's financial situation has shaken global markets, and according to financial strategists, it may send ripples across the world economy. Why is that? How will China's housing crisis change the world? In this video, we will expand more about the Evergrande crisis and its impact on global markets. What is China's Evergrande? The China Evergrande Group is an enormous but heavily indebted private sector property developer. According to sales, it is the second largest property development firm in China and ranks 122nd on the Fortune Global 500. Founded by an entrepreneur, Xu Jiayin, from southern China in 1996 in Guangzhou, the Evergrande Group has grown into a massive holding group. In 2009, the company was listed in Hong Kong and was registered in the Cayman Islands. The group operates many different businesses and subsidiaries from real estate to renewable energy, sports, tourism, and education. The company is headquartered in the Hohai Financial Center in Shenzhen. Evergrande sells apartments to upper to middle class families. It was ranked the world's most valuable real estate firm in 2018. The Evergrande Group owns around 565 million square meters of development land and real estate properties in 107 cities in mainland China. Some of the group's notable projects include Hainan's Ocean Flower. The company also owns two theme park brands such as Hengda Water World and Hengda Children of the World. What is the Evergrande crisis? Evergrande has become the most indebted real estate developer globally because the company is stuck in a solvency crisis that started around a year ago when the COVID-19 pandemic affected property sales in the country. Evergrande has borrowed heavily in its quest to become China's most prominent real estate developer. So to materialize its expansion plans, the company borrowed over $300 billion. Evergrande was still doing fine, but sales dropped considerably after the pandemic hit China. This continued for many months, leading to snowballing the concerns about a financial crunch, and that's precisely what happened. Another reason behind Evergrande's financial crunch is that the Chinese government brought in new regulations to control the amount owned by mainstream real estate firms. These new rules forced Evergrande to offer its properties huge discounts to make sure the business stays afloat. As a result, Evergrande is now so short on cash that it has started paying suppliers with unfinished apartments as it cannot afford to pay in cash. The company is finding it difficult to pay the interest on its debts. There is an unprecedented uncertainty surrounding the company's future, which is why Evergrande's share price dropped by 90% in 2021. The most devastating turn of events for the Chinese real estate developer was when it missed the deadline on an interest payment worth $83.5 million last September, which was due on some of its dollar-denominated bonds. Evergrande eventually made the payment on the 21st of October to avoid default. Later, Evergrande bought some more time as it made another overdue payment of $45 million on the dollar bonds the same month. Still, the company had debt in billions, which is why the world's biggest credit rating agency, Fitch, declared Evergrande in default. This means if things don't go well, Evergrande will be teetering between a managed collapse, a messy meltdown, or a bailout by Beijing. China's real estate crisis. It is essential to note that Evergrande isn't the only real estate developer facing a financial crisis in China. Many Chinese property developers face the heat after the pandemic and Beijing's new housing rules. Now the government is struggling to keep the industry profitable since home prices and property sales are falling sharply. So in all likelihood, the property sector's engine of growth is losing steam. China's rescue measures are mainly short-term solutions, while this problem requires a more proactive yet long-term effort. Evergrande's crisis is an indication that the country's model of property-led economic prosperity is unsustainable, and changes are inevitable. Rumors are rife that the Chinese government is planning to handle the crisis. Part of this plan is that state-owned banks have taken over some of Evergrande's liabilities and assets. A company that has remained private since its inception will now receive financial help from the state. The government, naturally, will have the primary control over it, which may become an issue of concern for Evergrande Group's array of stakeholders, including international ones. Understandably, the housing crisis will have an impact on the global economy. What does it mean for China and the world? Evergrande is not the only real estate problem China is facing currently. Its entire real estate sector is bearing the brunt of the crisis, as home prices keep dropping year after year. If this situation doesn't change, China's economic growth will be endangered. That's an alarming situation since property and related industries make up almost 30% of the country's GDP. A real estate sector crisis would mean that Chinese banks will have a significantly large number of non-performing loans, as 27% of the loans these banks hold are property and mortgage related. Trust companies and the overall shadow banking sector are crucial funding sources for Chinese developers, which may also be affected by the crisis. And equally problematic would be the possible political fallout. Around 60% of the assets owned by urban households in China are properties, and for low-income households, the share is even higher. Resultantly, a sharp property price drop may trigger social unrest. That's something the government of China would want to avoid. There's little doubt that a credit crunch will make things worse for the world's second largest economy, since companies that cannot borrow cannot survive and operate. This situation is also unnerving for foreign investors as the time is fast approaching when they would find China a less attractive option to invest their money. And this is already happening since one of the main complaints Evergrande's international clients have is that there's a lot of ambiguity and uncertainty surrounding the company's future. The murkiness about the company's internal matters in the past few years and now when the central government has intervened is problematic for its international stakeholders. They are clueless regarding whatever is going on and what will happen. It is apparent that the only stakeholders the Chinese government will prioritize in case of a bailout would be Chinese stakeholders instead of foreign ones. That's what makes Evergrande's international stakeholders so nervous. And China's housing crisis will hurt the global economy because, according to experts, if the country's property market crashes, it will wipe $1 trillion off the international market. The International Monetary Fund claims that the global growth will advance by 4.9% by next year. But China's battered property market will wipe 0.5% off this growth rate. Let's keep in mind that the global economy is worth around $95 trillion. This 0.5 figure will double if China's housing crisis worsens, and the effect might flow into other world economies. According to the Chief Investment Officer at Rockefeller Global Family, Jimmy Chang, if China's economic crisis worsens, the rest of the global economy would have contagion from it. The distress would spread to other parts of the global market, such as raw materials through import channels, and commodities as the demand for automobiles, construction materials, and machinery drops. What do you think would be the fate of Evergrande? Do you think China's housing crisis will be fixed anytime soon? Please share your thoughts in the comments section, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon to stay connected. Thanks for watching!